had no idea what I was getting into when I started The Mad Wife by Megan Church. I was really like already fully bought into like the housewife goes rogue kind of vibe from like the 50s and 60s that this cover is giving. And I didn't need to know more. Like I was ready to jump in with that. But the twist of this book genuinely shocked me. Like I truly did not see it coming at all. What I expected to be a feminist story about confinement and, you know, like female rebellion, familial rebellion within like the female place in the house and everything, pivoted to an exploration of grief that I really was just like unprepared for. I did not see it coming. And I really appreciated that about this book. I thought that made it so deeply engaging and interesting. What stood out so much to me was the fact that our protagonist, is not only like misunderstood and misdiagnosed by her husband, and that is to be expected based on the title Mad Wife and everything, and kind of what the trope of this like rogue housewife of this era is. But what I liked is the fact that the author kind of flips this idea on its head, and even though those things are happening and she feels unlistened to during this time of grief, it is still a loving marriage. The relationship isn't abusive or cruel in any way that like many of the stories that kind of go this route are. Instead, it is a relationship that has been fractured by grief, silence, miscommunication, the inability to share feelings after a loss. And I appreciate how this novel really flips that familiar like mad wife trope on its head by allowing us to have something different here. By allowing the couple to still have a loving marriage, and we don't end up like hating the husband at the end of this book. He makes some poor decisions, but so does she. And so I really appreciated that because I feel like that is more potentially realistic. I'm not saying that there were not abusive husbands in scenarios like this or in books like this. That is a completely valid way to talk about this time period. But I found this very interesting. I think that it's kind of a subversion of expectations when it comes to a book like this. With all of that being said, I don't want to give like away too much. I think telling you that this book is about grief is already a little bit on the edge because like I didn't realize that going in at all that was what this book was going to be about. So hopefully I didn't give anything away by talking about that. But with all of that kind of in mind, I would like to end this by saying I really enjoyed the author's note at the end. Learning that the story was inspired by a real person that this author found in patient notes at a sanatorium during a writer's retreat that she found really adds like a layer that is super powerful to books like this because it reminds you that stories like this are all too real. They did happen. Women were treated so poorly during, you know, decades and decades and honestly centuries and centuries of time where their husbands were fully in charge of their health, their mental health, and if their husbands decided something was wrong, simply something was wrong, and their voices did not matter. And the discussion from the author about finding this patient record and not knowing what was to become of this woman that she found in the historical record, really like inspiring her to write this story, really lends some like emotional weight to what's happening in this book. It reframed the story to be not just fiction, but historical fiction in a way. And I really loved the fact that she talked about this at the end. I finished this book a while ago and it's been kind of lingering in my mind, just because I thought it was so well done. And I think like it's almost haunting in a way to know that this was inspired by a real person. So if you're looking for a book that subverts expectations, kind of shocks you with a twist, is deeply heart-wrenching but also heartwarming in many ways, I think that you would love this one.